Hello, everybody. Here we are again. And today, the webinar that we are concentrating on is called Develop and Implement Strategic Plans. My name is Fred, and we're going to run through this one. Now, when you're implementing strategic plans, what are organizations saying? What are the things that you need to be aware of? And as I take you through this, I just want you to make sure that you got your LMS open, make sure that you got your assignments open for you to get maximum benefit from this discussion and from this webinar. Right, so this is unit has assessment 1A and 1B and assessment 2. And we're going to go through for me to explain to you what each assessment stands for. So today's purpose is just showing you and breaking down some of those barriers in understanding the assessment and some of the questions, and just giving you an insight on how best you can answer these questions and maximize the opportunities that you have today. And how this session run. So how we're going to run this session is, I will take you to the assessments. We'll read those assessments, find out what they're looking for, and then I'll give you a snapshot and show you some models and show you some of the principles or concepts on what the one that I used in order to answer those questions. So you'd be familiar with this concept. It is important as a student of advanced diploma to be aware of some of the models that I used in business analysis and technical situations. So we'll go through those assessments. We'll take you through how to enable you, to show you how to answer, and so you can sort of proactively get down to it. Okay, so how do you get most of this webinar? Have a pen and paper ready, have your LMS open, and yes, your questions, have those questions there. And you're also going to have your case studies next to you, because this has got some case studies that you need to be ready. What happens after this, as you can imagine, once it's done, you got to do the job, you got to do the assignment. And this is quite easy because you are basing your answers on a case study of your choice. And well, there are some case studies that you're given to look at, and this is making it much more easier for you that you do not have to cook up any material. Material is already cooked and done for you. Let's get started. Let's get, it is a good part, right? It's a good part. So, right, as I mentioned, you've got assessment 1A. This is about Australia's airline industry. So, we'll look at that industry, and you've got to do some more research, find out, number one, how much worth is that industry? Who are the players in that industry? The roots of the airlines, the things that they do, their strategies that they use, their marketing plans, how do they strategize to maximize their profits. And through that, obviously, we'll discuss about your market analysis. These are the tools that you're going to use. Personal analysis, that's another tool, and SWOT analysis. And as you continue doing these assessments, things like personal and SWOT, personal and SWOT, personal and SWOT, you continue hearing them right through the end of your advanced diploma. And assessment 1B is a short answer session. So we'll be talking about, what's the mission statement, what are the value statement, and it will ask you to pick 2 to 3 strategic objectives from the chosen case study, and what are your 2 key strategies that are going to use in order to achieve those objectives. Assessment 2, we won't bother very much about it because this is to do with the BSG online game. For some of you that have already done this game but haven't done the assessment, obviously you just need to ignore assessment 2. And if you haven't done the game, you probably need to register and you talk to your business mentor. The mentor will give you special instructions on how you can register for that online game. And instructions on doing that will be sent to you directly. And therefore, in this webinar, we will not spend any time at all discussing about assessment 2, because that's a separate whole issue that's going to be dealt separately, and it's got its own set of instructions. So you won't need to do it here. Let's go to what we need doing, to what we can do, and this is where we are. 1A. Let's go 1A. So In assessment 1A, before we go into personal analysis, let me take you to the assessment itself so we can read it together. Right, assessment 1A. It says here, there's a case study, Australia airline industry. Now, I'm really not going to read the whole case study with you here. It's quite long, it's quite lengthy, and you might have to read that by yourself. But it just as a matter of discussion, what you might look at is say, what are the things that you are required to do when you complete reading this case study? So the requirements for this case study is Australia's domestic and international airline industry has changed considerably with the introduction of other carriers, new routes, new standards, and legislation for the airline industry. So what you're saying is there have been some new regulations that have come up. We've got some new players now in our airline industry, and some of these new players, like Tiger, came in recently, and they were charging $49, $79 to go to Melbourne and Adelaide and Gold Coast. And so you can look at that and say, well, how does that impact the domestic market? And we had also Virgin that joined in initially, that joined in as a domestic partner, as a domestic airline, competing with Qantas, and then Qantas had produced Jetstar. And so more and more we saw that industry expanding, and there are obviously reasons why that industry continues to grow. And we saw Virgin, improve and expand from being a domestic airline into an international. And they started with a very famous golden route, which is Australia to LA. And if you've never flown that route, you find it's very lucrative internationally, and you've got so many airlines that fly that route. So we'll be discussing through that. And here, you are a senior manager employed by one of the following airlines. Choose one: Jetstar Airlines, Virgin Australia, Tiger Airways Australia. Due to your skills and knowledge in strategic management, you have been chosen to develop a strategic analysis report investigating the following. A strategic analysis report relating to Jetstar or Virgin or Tiger Airways Australia, including competitive analysis. So you have to present competitive analysis. So what is this? To start with, before you do that, you're going to give us a brief description of the history of the company you have chosen. Is it Jetstar, Tiger, or Virgin? And the history of its main competitors. Who are the competitors? So who are the other guys in the game? If you've chosen Tiger, that means you're talking more of domestic market. Who are the other guys? If you've chosen maybe Jetstar or Virgin Australia, so you'll be talking now. Jetstar is what international and domestic routes. So we'll be saying who are the people that they compete with, and the players in the game, and what routes does Jetstar have. So in this assessment, you have to actually give us a map route of where your chosen airline flies to. And we want to know who are their joint partners, who they joined with, who are their alliances. In flying, there's a Star Alliance where airlines belong to, and who do they work with? How big is the market, right? How big is the airline market? The passenger routes, we need to see them. Give us a diagram of a route diagram. You can go on the internet and, and Google, say, Virgin Australia, what is the route? Passenger numbers, if known, and most of these details are in there. They will tell you how many passengers they fly per year, and they will tell you even the plane sizes, the number of planes they have. We want to know. Your chosen company, how many airlines do they have, how many routes, maybe they could fly regional, what is the situation there, what are the advantages, on what level do they compete, what is their competitive advantage, what is their unique selling point to the customer, what makes a customer choose them, what is it that when a customer wants to fly, wants to go on holiday or on business, they will choose that airline. I want you to be able to identify that unique selling point that the airline has. It could be price, it could be comfort, it could be leisure, it could be because they've got a wide spectrum of routes, or they've got many alliances, they can fit you, and go even to the some of those places never been like Timbuktu. So we need to know that. And a summary of pastel. Important. You can't submit without market analysis, without your pastel and the SWOT analysis. And then number 4, compare airline data for all carriers on time performance for the most recent year and summarize key information. That is saying, okay, go in, get in some details, give us the numbers, give us the time performance, like, which airline has won an award for being, almost on time, being really as promised. If they say it's going to fly 9 hours, they're going to leave on time. Departure time competitiveness, arrival time. Some airlines will compete on that. You say, well, if we say we leave at 12, we definitely leave at 12. And maybe they will say only by 2% we miss that. So there is that aspect of travel, of competitiveness, and all the data for airlines is in those websites that are given there. And so let's go in there. This is what we got to do for 1A. And let's go and discuss what's written on 1B, so that when I take you now into the discussion and answering, helping you to find models and concepts or how to approach this assessment, at least we're looking at it holistically, and we might not have to jump back and forth here and there. Let me take you to PowerPoint again. So here we are. Right, PESEL, as we said there, it's one of those things that's required. So your PESEL is, P stands for political, E stands for economic, S for social, T for technology, L for legal, and E for environmental. So what do we mean by political? What are you going to analyze when you talk about the political? We're talking about the stable political environment. How stable is the political environment in a particular country, or in Australia, if you're choosing any of those Australian airlines? What is the deregulations? The regulations that have come in, like in Australia, they deregulated that industry. What does that mean? That means they took all the barriers. Anybody with enough investment could come into the market. They could enter in and start working in it and try and capture as much of the market share as they can. Open skies. So when countries have an open skies policy, that means they are welcoming new airlines to come in. They're welcoming foreign airlines, foreign investors to come in and apply the business in the country. Foreign ownership rules, some of those rules might say, well, if you are coming to Australia or into any country, the foreign ownership will be maybe 50% owned by a foreigner and the other 50% by the local investor. Or some of them, they might say, well, the local investor should have 55% highest majority holding stake, and the others have. So those are some of the regulations, some of those things that are politically managed and politically regulated. And then we've got climate change politics, where what do we mean by that in terms of airline? We're talking of the pollution, we're talking of maybe the noise changes, we're talking of the various things that would affect our air. And so politically, the rules might be put in there to say, well, we don't want this level of noise, airlines flying into our country, or this kind of pollution, the smoke that comes from the airlines, or the heat levels. And so those airlines will have to abide by the laws of that country, the laws that have been put in there. So we wanted to look and say, how easy is it, how political this, when you look at the politics of it, how easy is it for a foreign airliner to come here? How easy is it even for the local airline to operate? Does it give them leeway to, obviously make profit, which is what they want to do? Economic, you're looking at, well, we will look at the global financial crisis. How does it affect the airline industry? How was it affected during the time? Household disposable incomes. We know that the more people earn, the more they can be able to put aside for their travels and holidays, the more they'll be able to put something aside for, what we call disposable income. That is this income they can use for holidays. And rising currency, we're talking now of the currency is invested against the US dollar. What's the value of the Australian dollar versus there? So we know that when the Australian dollar is maybe 50 to 1 or 40 to 1 US dollar, it becomes very difficult for us to travel overseas because of the exchange rate. So if you are spending, $40 to buy 1 US dollar, that means you're going to need more money to actually enjoy your holiday wherever. And so when the Australian dollar was at par with the US dollar, it was very easy. People enjoyed their travel. That means you're spending $1 to get 1 US dollar. Therefore, travel becomes cheaper, holidays become cheaper, becomes much more, or you might say, affordable. And we'll look at also, you must look then at the Australian economic market and say, how does this affect rising of fuel costs? If there's war in the Middle East, or if anything happens to our oil supply, we see that the airlines will begin to put up the prices of tickets. Why is that? Because the barrel of oil might be too expensive for them, and they need to cover those costs. Social. People look and say, how accepted is socially accepted in the country? Is this something that is easily done, or is this flying? There was a time when flying was only probably for the elite or for the businessmen. It wasn't a common thing that people say, well, I'm traveling next year or I'm traveling this year. But as we can see in today's society, people are preferring probably to travel more before they even buy a house, travel more before they even settle down to a job. So after school, they will say, hey, I want to spend a year traveling. That means there's easy access to money, there's easy access to most of the other things that make that journey possible. And also that means socially families have come to accept that traveling is a worthwhile thing to do. And technology, we're talking about video conferencing, the internet, safe transport investments, efficient aircrafts. So talking about the technology, how has technology affected the airline industry? And what has technology made it easier, or has technology made it harder? And so you can tell us to say, when you're assessing all these things, what role or what impact is technology made to the airline industry? Legal, so we're talking of legislative compliance requirements, allegations of misleading advertisers, anti-competitive behavior, and so deceiving advertising and so forth. Do we have that here? And what can you say about it in this regard? And environmental, greenhouse and carbon emissions, a big issue everywhere you go. Noise control levels, and in Sydney, our airport closes. It doesn't operate 24-hour service because of the noise controls. And then you also talk about tourism saturation, shortage of infrastructure capacity. So it's just an example of some of the things that you might be looking at. This is giving you a guideline. So when you do a pest analysis for your chosen airline, you can look at this, okay, this I want to use under economic. How did the global financial crisis affect? What is the rise in fuel costs? So give you a guideline of what you need to do. So let's look at one of the tools again that you're going to use in your analysis. Is SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So when under strengths, we're looking and say, what are the advantages your airline has, maybe for being here, or what advantage does that particular airline has over others? What are its capabilities? What are the resources and the assets? This is also, well, you might say, oh, my airline that I've chosen has got 200 planes. It varies about maybe, 4 million people a year, and the marketing, it's got a hub in Singapore, a hub in Hong Kong, or now Dubai being the hub for Qantas. So what is the hub for your chosen airline, and the distribution levels, and how is the public aware? What is the awareness level of this? So talk about its strengths, what makes it competitive. And also talk on the left-hand side, talk about the weaknesses. What are its weaknesses? Maybe price, too expensive. Maybe they don't have a lot of cash at hand, cash flow to help them do what they need to do. Maybe they've got a bad record in safety, maybe a bad record in taking off. Maybe there are always delays, maybe due to making technical faults. Well, what are the weaknesses? Tell us all these things. Maybe they are not as widespread globally as the other airline. Maybe their destinations are very limited. And weakness maybe is just a domestic airline. So let us know what it is that you think, or that are the official weaknesses that may be listed on their website. And then we'll look at opportunities. What are the opportunities that this airline has? Is it a growing market which they operate in? Is it maybe the economy is changing and improving, and there's an opportunity for that industry to grow, and maybe there's an opportunity for their airline to grow. Maybe they've invested a lot of money into new airplanes, into new designs, into new ventures. Maybe they have got an opportunity to expand their destinations, their hubs, their regional places that they need to go to. Maybe they've got new investors coming in, and maybe they've got started new partnerships. What opportunity that this airline has? We want you to discuss that. And then talk about the threats. Obviously, one of the threats could be competition. One of the threats could be maybe environmental effects. What are the threats and what are the market demands? The threat could be the prices. The threat could be the supply of oil. The threat could be maybe the supply of airplanes themselves. Say, well, there's a rising cost in maintaining airlines. So tell us what are the threats, what are the obstacles? Is it regulations, political regulations? Is it climate change? Is it maybe the economy in your country, which could be a threat in that, well, maybe people might not travel as much as they can or they want to if the economy is not doing well. That's 1B. So that's 1A. Now, 1B, let's look at it, say, what does 1B ask you to do? Let's look at 1B. What is it asking you to do? 1B. In 1B, you are asked to continue from task 1. In task 1, we are assuming now you have chosen your airline, you have done a market analysis, and like you said, market analysis, you're telling us how big that industry is, who are the players in there, the competition, and you are telling us, and what gives that airline an edge. So you have done that, you've done your SWOT, you've done your PESO, and now we are on to 1B. What do you need to do? Based on the information in part A, develop the following for your chosen company. Okay, so you might have chosen Jetstar, Virgin Tiger, and now you're going to write what is their mission statement to reflect the future direction. Create a new value statement to reflect the future. So remember, we're talking about the future. What is their new mission statement? What is their new value statement? And develop 3 strategic objectives for the next 3 to 5 years, right? Develop 2 key strategies. So you need 3 objectives and 2 strategies for the next 3 to 5 years. So, and say it must be written on appropriate business language and using appropriate styles, graphics where necessary, and formatted and presented in accordance with contemporary workplace standard. And so already you've done your research on your airline, and I'm assuming by now you already know what their mission statement is. You've been through it, and now what you're saying is you're writing a new one. So this is strategic planning. What is strategic planning? And mission. What is the mission statement? It's why we exist. So we as an organization, we are assuming, we in your airline, why do we exist? Why are we here? We are here either to fly people, to take people to destinations of their choice. Like if you read like Facebook and their mission statement, they want to connect people, right? And so what is your mission statement? Why do we exist, right? I know a lot of people always say, oh yeah, my mission is I want to make money. Well, I know you want to make money. That's everybody's desire. Everyone wants to make money. But through that process of making money, why are you existing? What is it that you really want to achieve? What is it that you feel your business has been called to do? What's the calling of your business? Is it to bring education? Is it to bring sustenance? Is it to bring health? Is it to take people to destinations of their choice? Or is it to make the world a smaller place or to make it into a global village that easily transactions can be made? So you tell us, let us know, depending on your choice of airline. Because remember, you are writing a new mission statement. You're not just copying what was there and pasting it. No, because we can go to the website and find out what is their mission statement. But we want now, that's why it says, what is their new mission statement? What is the new value statement? What is the new vision? So you are now giving it a new life. Vision. What is the vision? What we aspire to be. What do we aspire to be? For instance, taking on an individual case, you might be aspiring to be an engineer. You might be aspiring to be a doctor. You might be aspiring to be an astronaut. So that is where you are going. That is what you aspire to be. That is what you are working towards, right? You are working towards that. So you cherish that idea. So that's what drives you. Every morning you wake up, you say, well, I wanna be this. This is what I want to be. This is what I want to be, And so you have some objectives, you have some tactics, you have some techniques that will help you to get there. And so values, what we believe in. What do you believe in? Fairness, integrity, honesty, What is it that you believe in? What are your values? What are the things that you really say, yes, I want to get there, but on these, I will not compromise. I'll get there fairly. I'll win squarely. I will not cheat. We'll live by integrity and walk in this manner. So, what are your values? What are the things that really are you? When we think of you, what do we think of? Do we think of you and say, wow, these are the principles that he or she upholds? Now, as an organization, what principles do they uphold? Strategic directions. So what we want to focus on, what are you focusing? Yes, you've chosen where you're going. You've told us what you aspire to be. You've told us about your values. Now the strategic directions is what we want to focus on. Okay, you may be saying, I want to focus on market share. I want to focus on my revenues. I want to focus probably on upskilling my team. I want to focus probably on bringing awareness of my products to the market. Market is not aware of my product, so I want to bring awareness. I want to bring it to the forefront. So what is the thing that you're focusing in the quest to achieve what you need to achieve? And outcomes, goals, objectives, what do you want to achieve? You want to achieve this X number of dollars. We want to achieve, maybe production of X amount. Want to achieve a distribution of this level. What is it that you want to achieve? Success indicators. How will we know we'll be successful? What are the milestones that will tell us that we're in the right direction? Remember, there's somewhere you want to go, right? You're going somewhere, you're saying to yourself, am I in the right path? Have I achieved what I need to do? What are the indications that I am getting there, right? So the things that you measure are the things that will tell you that you're getting to where you need to go. So imagine like on a journey, you're walking 100 kilometers, and as you drive, you see this milestone that says, it starts with 100 kilometers to Sydney. And then as you continue driving, you see what says 80 kilometers to Sydney, 50 kilometers to Sydney, 20 kilometers. Each time you see that milestone and that sign that says 20 kilometers to Sydney, it tells you that, well, I'm in the right direction, number one. And number two, I'm making progress and I'm reducing the distance. I'm covering the distance. So when you talk about goals and objectives and success indicators, we want to see those are what we call the milestones. What are the things that you can show us that you can see yourself to indicate that you're getting closer and closer to your destination? And then we're going to have an operational plan. What we need to do, by when, by whom, with what. So your operational plan at work is who's doing what, and when is it being done, and who is it doing, and what do they actually need to do. So these are now very specific jobs that should be done by a specific time and on a specific occasion to achieve a specific goal. So these have now been broken down into smaller chunks. But as those goals are done, as those works are achieved and accomplished, they lead us to where we can be able to see a success, and then we can measure those goals, and that gives us strategic direction. And whilst we're doing those things, we're doing them within our value system, because we know if we stay within that value system, we become who we want to be. So strategic objectives. So what we have here, obviously, like I've spoken to you, you have your strategy now consists of, you've got a vision, which is a small set of high-level ideas that describe the desired future state. What do we desire to be? What do we desire to see? What do we desire to say? What is it that's really driving us? What is the driving force? I'll give you an example. When J.F. Kennedy said we need to go to the moon within this decade, that was in the 60s. So the vision was, we're going to put the men on the moon, right? Let's put the men on the moon. That was the vision. But then you find at the bottom, they needed scientists to do the numbers. They needed people to build the craft. It needed to be tested. Astronauts had to be picked up and be trained. People had to write programs. IBM computers were bought. You could watch the Hidden Figures. They tell you all the story of how the men went into the moon. And so you'll find that though the vision, Kennedy said, we want to get into the moon, that was the vision everybody was looking. So everything they did added value and added closer step to getting the men on the moon, whether being it, doing the formulas, writing programs on the computer, decoding things, measuring distances, the science and the physics and the chemistry involving the chemicals, the air the girls want to breathe, building that whole facet, that plethora of activities were leading to a desired result of being on the moon. So in your now airline objectives, you'll be saying, what's your company overarching directional pursuit to reach the future state? What are the things they're pursuing in order to get there? So if you wanted to be a doctor, you'd be pursuing your studies, you'd be pursuing your medical studies. And then, so what are the tactics? Right, technical implementation. Tactics are the plans through which a company will reach its objectives. And we have projects, specific, finite, prioritized activities that enact one of the many tactics. And through all this, you need to set some goals. When you talk of goals, the goals have to be SMART, right? Research has shown us that specific and challenging goals lead to better performance. In this lesson, we'll be working through on designing a plan, what are called, those goals should be SMART. So they've got to be specific. That means the goal should be possible, it should be specific, and you should specify what is your goal? Where will it take us to? How often should this be done? And how much will it cost? And it's got to be measured. Can we measure this goal? And what sort of measurement are we going to use to check whether we're getting to where we want to be? I mean, it's no point in having a goal that you can't measure, right? It's no point setting objectives that cannot be measured, because how do you know you've achieved them? And they're going to be attainable. There's no point in setting a goal that is so far away. It's like, it's just been picked up from the sky, and nobody will work towards it because it's like, hey, this is unfathomable. So you need a goal that can be measured, that is attainable. And of course, it shouldn't be something that is very easy to achieve, but something that can really going to push you, so that you can excel, that's going to stretch your organization, that's going to stretch your skills base, enabling people to go and work harder and do more research and study harder, just as we're talking. I hope you're pushing yourself. And realistic. It's going to be realistic. Can this be done within our time frame? Can this be done within the skills that we have in this organization? Is this something that we can financially afford? That's also part of being realistic. It's like, okay, this goal that we want, how much will it cost? By when should it be done? Is this something that's going to be done within 2-3 years? You're not going to talk about 100 years, because then that's no longer realistic. So it's within an achievable time frame. And you're going to look and say, it's going to be time, you're going to put time to it, within 6 months, within a year, within 3 years, within 4 years. It's going to be time bound. So that then we can say, well, we're going to achieve this in 3 years. Where are we now in first year? What do we start with in second year? What do we start? When the third year comes, you can say, if we haven't achieved, what is holding us back? What has been the hindrance in us achieving that? So you've got to have a time frame. SMART goals, we want to see them on this project, and SMART goals for your airline. There you go. So as I said, assessment 2, we're not going to discuss about it. It's a BSG online. And so when you do just a recap, remember, you're going to do a market analysis, choose an airline of your choice. You're going to provide a PERSEL, you're going to provide a SWOT, and on your objectives, remember, it's the new objectives you're going to give us, and new mission statement, new values. Do a thorough research on the airline that you've chosen. every airline, every international business, they've got a mission, vision, values. And like I said, in assessment one, look for that unique selling point that the airline has. Now, that is the competitive advantage that they have over other airlines. And what is the competitive advantage that your chosen airline has over its competition? Yep, I hope you have understood all this. If you don't, you missed something, feel free to rewind. If you have any concerns or questions, there you go. Call the team on 1300-050-589, or you can email us at student_support@fceducation.group. My name is Fred. Thank you for dropping by. I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and we'll catch up soon on our next segment. Ciao, ciao, ciao.